We have a couple others that we know are going to be joining in person, so we're just going to give them another minute here, and then we'll do introductions and get started. All right, Jenny, we're going to get started in just a minute. I think maybe just Kate now is our last one we're waiting on.
I have a cat I could get involved too. It's usually
Feel free.
Zuko's Zuko's very interested in fish passage.
Yes, I love it. Thank you. I think we should just let her go. Okay. Yeah. We'll let Kate introduce herself when she gets here. So go around and do introductions. Thanks everybody for coming to our Fish Passage meeting. I'm Stephanie Cavino. I'm the executive director of the Blackstone Watershed Collaborative and help facilitate this monthly meeting.
Morning, everybody. Matt Gentrin, fisheries biologist with Rhode Island DEM Fish and Wildlife.
Good morning, Kevin Rice, Finance and Program Manager for the Blackstone Watershed Collaborative.
Hi there, Rachel Holbert, Narragansett Bay Research Reserve here at Rhode Island DEM.
Thanks. And online, let's see, we have Jenny.
Hey everyone, my name is Jenny Rogers. I'm a staff ecologist with the Narragansett Bay Estuary Program. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks for joining us. Kate?
Kate McPherson, Save the Bay's Narragansett Bay Riverkeeper.
Thanks. John?
John Moslin, President of the Blackstone River Watershed Council, Friends of the Blackstone.
Thanks. Nils?
Morning, Nils Weberg. I'm with Fuss and O'Neill, and we're under contract to TNC and Rydam for design of the fish passage at Rydam on Main Street and Slater Mill and Elizabeth Webbing.
Thanks, Nils. Jess?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Jessica Antonez. I'm with Relevate Power. I'm a regulatory and compliance specialist. And sorry, I'm joining from the car today, so hopefully I will get back and have my camera shortly.
No worries. Thanks, Jess. Steve?
Good morning, everybody. Steve Amaral. I think some people know me when I was formerly at Alden, now Verdantis, and I've since gone off on my own with a company called BioPassage Scientific Consulting. I am working for Fish Heart in the US, so I've been facilitating communications with the agencies and project owners and helping them identify sites where their technology may be applicable. And I've also been serving as a scientific advisor on several of the installations that have occurred in the US. I am very familiar with the Blackstone River. I've been involved with a number of projects for fish passage and including Main Street Dam, where when I was with Alden, I did provide some support to Fuss and O'Neill on their designs. Good morning again, and I'm looking forward to the discussion here.
Great. Thanks so much, Steve. Nick? Or I'll hand it to you guys in general if you want to introduce yourselves or present, whatever your plan is.
Mika will be presenting, so I guess it makes sense for him to go last. But my name is Nick Hansen. I'm a sales manager with Fish Heart. Started last year at our the tunnel hydropower project in Connecticut. And I spoke to Matthew, and he was nice enough to invite us to this meeting and allow us to present.
Thank you. And Mika?
Mika Solberg is my name. I will share the presentation here whilst I introduce myself. Do you see this?
Yes.
Okay, now I just need to have from the beginning. So I am co-founder of Fish Heart. The company was established back 2016 by our innovator Tarmo Aittaniemi, myself and Magnus Breitenstein, three fellow fishermen who were very worried about the situation in Scandinavian rivers with salmonoids not being able to return to their home rivers due to a lot of damming what we have had to do after the Second World War. Currently, we have systems. We have 5 systems in Finland. In Taivalkoski Dam, we actually have 2 systems in there. In Sweden, we have 1 system. With First Light in Connecticut, we have 1 system. We're going to have 1 system with Sante in Sante Dam, Sante River. And we have also 1 system, second year operational as far as Australia. So already covering quite a big area of the world. Obviously, in the center, there's still quite a lot of room. And as you all know, in the current situation, this east side of us with our border with Russia, 1,340 kilometers, we are not really looking to go that direction. This is our first production unit back 2019. It is fully operational. It will go to water again. In Finland, we go, depending on if we are in the south or north, we go in the water starting on April, and last units like this go just before Midsummer Eve, sort of mid-June. The unit is made, or all the units are made of acid-proven steel. This is because we give them 30 years of guarantee. As part of our program, we always either lease or sell this unit with what we call a full maintenance program. And we don't lease or sell them without that because we want to get the units back once a year. We strip them to parts. We totally rebuild them. We paint them where it's needed. So every year when the unit returns back to the customer, it is new. And this is really the only way that we can operate these and guarantee the guarantee for 30 years. You will see later in the pictures that, and of course the picture behind myself and Nick, all the units are floating. As a starting point, of course, if we have a case where a customer wants to only get fish from the bottom, we can provide a unit that we will sink to the bottom and it will operate from the bottom. But on basis, they are floating, and this is obviously a big advantage because, as every fish biologist know and no engineer will admit, it is not so easy to get the entry position right in a fish ladder. And if you get it wrong in a fish ladder, it is very hard to repair it. This unit, the Fish Heart unit, is our largest unit. It has 2 entries, as you can see here. It has a set of valves. Normally nowadays 9 valves. It has underwater pumps, and it has these 2 acrylic pipelines where you can see this white area here. We have inside of the both acrylic pipelines a multi-camera AI system with lighting. So we have consistent lighting and fish picture recognition 24/7. We have different attraction flows. We have a surface flow here. We have flows coming from inside the pipelines, and we also have not in this first model, but on later model, we have a big attraction pipeline here between the entries, which is providing the main attraction for the fish from farther away. Once the fish are close to the entries, they are attracted from the attraction flow coming from inside the pipes. The capacity we guarantee in a situation of a lot of fish is up to 100,000 fish per day. And then we are talking of situation, let's say we have millions of herring or shad, and we have two entries in the fish heart, and we can have in every 2 minutes, we can have thousands of fish inside the pipeline, like here in Finland with one of our native fish. Then we have what we call a satellite heart unit, because it could still be that 100,000 fish per day is not enough, or the river is so wide, it could have powerhouses on both sides. Then you could have half of the fish on one side of the river and the other half on the other side of the river the whole season, not going and finding the fish heart. Then we would provide the customer with 1 or 2 satellite heart units. It is 50% of a fish heart, all same technology, everything. And basically it is a third entry to the fishway. And we can provide these entries as much as needed, so that we will always accomplish. The customer will tell us what efficiency is needed, how quickly the fish has to go over the dam, and then we will provide the right amount of tools to make sure that we get the fish in right numbers and quickly over. Also, I'm sure that you will at least know in your area of some badly working fish ladders. This is a great tool to add on. We can floatate it to the right place where the fish gather. We can attract them inside, and we can pump them directly into your existing fish ladder. Then we have a product, what we call Fish Heart Fish Eye. It is an integral part of our fish heart. So it's our fully automated fish identification system. And as I already said, we have multiple cameras, lighting. We can provide it with the airtight assembly box, or we can provide it with the box to go underwater into existing fish ladders. It's like all our units are linked to our own portal, where we can provide real-time pictures and reports. All species are separated, all species sizes are measured, and from each fish will be a separate picture and size and species and a number in our portal report. Also, one very good part of our Fish Heart Fish Eye is that we can, and we already recognize either invasive species, or as in Finland, we are recognizing the larger female and male salmonoids, and we are driving those into a container, not directly over the dam, in a case where we have, for example, 4 or 5 dams very close to each other, and between the dams there is no area for the salmonoids or any fish to spawn. Then it's better to begin with to drive them over the dams, whilst we are now building fish hearts into all of these dams, but the customers is putting up 1 more fish heart per year. So during these 4 years, we are collecting the big salmonoids and driving them into the spawning areas. Now I explain the operational principle of fish heart. We have the fish heart unit number 1 below the tail race, either facing upstream or downstream, depending on really of the place, how the fish behave, how the eddies work. It's very site specific. We have number 4, which is the water collection tube. It comes over the dam, down, and on the way there is a big pump on the shore, then the water goes into the fish heart unit. When we start the operation, we have the big valves closed and we fill the system with water. And after that, we have filled it with the underwater pump here on the reservoir side. We pump all air out of the system. When we then release the 400 valves, we allow the water to go through the fish heart and up this number 3 elevation of water and fish tube. So we are filling the whole system with water. If we have a system that the elevation of water and fish tube is, for example, 2 meters lower than the collection tube, or we have it here somewhere low, the system actually works automatically with siphon. It's moving the water without any pump force. Only every time when there is fish in and our system recognizes it, we need to speed the water, because everybody knows that fish will always turn and swim against the current. So in order for the fish not to fight our system, we speed the water with the big pump number 5. The suitable speed is about 10 feet per second, and not even the strongest salmonoids fight that. And then fish travel safely over the dam into the reservoir. Also, one part of our system is our control unit, to which we connect the dam electricity or a generator electricity, and then provide that then to the pump and our fish heart unit. It also has our satellite there, so we have satellite Wi-Fi, and it has all our computers, and then it has resting areas for our personnel. Here is a short video of one of our sites. I wanted to show you the surface attraction flow. Surface attraction flow has a very important job. It is not on all the time. It is on and off, and we have different programs depending on also fish species, because every time this comes on, fish from a larger area will recognize it. They will hear the sound underwater, and then they will swim closer, and then we guide them also with guiding nets and what we call our catcher, which is in front of the unit. And once we get the fish close enough, they are attracted first by our middle attraction flow, and then finally the internal attraction flows. Now I will show you a video how this works. And I always like to say at this point that this is actually the most important point of any fish weigh. When fish are approaching the dam, what is the philosophy of the fish weigh? How is it built? Where is it built? Because if you now on the right, if you have an entry for a fish weigh, and you're getting 2 cubic meters of water, and then you have the turbine blowing 10 times more fish. Fish are very likely to swim all the way to the tail race and miss the entry of a fish weigh. That's why we have designed our system to be floating. It has its own engines and steering. And every time when we start in a new place, we are trying it before we are assembling the final pipelines. We will have the pipelines on the shore, but the soft pipelines, the floating pipelines, we don't lock in before we have tried different positions. Of course, sometimes we might have a lot of data of fish movement that will help. Also, as a fisherman, we can see where the fish are likely to rest. So we are not trying to intervene their movement necessarily before the tail race. We rather let the fish to swim around there a little bit, and they are looking away, and it's most important is to be in a position where the fish will most likely be. Then when we are in the right place, the fish are guided with different attraction flows, and whilst they are close enough, they totally voluntarily freely they swim inside our acrylic pipeline into our system. So we had the surface flows, we have the middle attraction flow, and we have the internal attraction flow, underwater attraction flow. When fish swim inside, the AI picks movement and takes a video and pictures of the fish, sends it to our local server or a cloud server, which analyzes the fish, writes a report what fish there is, and then depending on what kind of order we have given the system, if it has invasive species, it could say, here is invasive species, drive them to the shore to be killed. Or it can say, these are fish that can use the fishway, drive them over the dam. What happens? The valve behind the fish closes, goes red. The valve in front of the fish opens. The valve atop the fish opens. On the other side, it closes. On the other side, the big valve also opens. That side starts to attract fish. In this side, we change the direction of the flow. The big pump started. We speed up the water, and fish start to travel with the pipeline. So here you see water coming in, collecting fish, and safely traveling them over the dam. We have multiple tests. There's no mortality issues either inside our unit or in the pipeline. Then I speak a little bit about our most recent test, which we did 2025 in South Carolina. Or was it already 24? Time runs so quickly. Steve, was it 24 or 25? Well, anyway, we got.
Sorry, I think it was 24.
Yeah.
Yeah, the years run together.
Yeah. So this project was funded by DOE. We did it together with EPRI. EPRI was the main party, and then there was us, Verdantas, PNNL, and obviously the hydropower company. The picture on the left shows you how it was assembled. We didn't drive the fish over the dam. We drove them, it was about 10 meters, about 30 feet, just under 30 feet height difference, which you can see the picture here on the top right corner. We drove them into a big collection tank where they spent, if they came on the night, let's say they spent there from 4 hours to 12 hours. And then the fish that we were testing, which was the American shad, they were moved into holding tanks where they stayed another 24 hours before they were checked and released. The report of this test will be out very short. During the test, we also had a very big flood situation. They have over 60 floodgates here, and they told us on a previous day that there's going to be a really big flood coming. They have to open all the gates, and we actually said we can leave the unit there because it's floating, but they wanted to see how quickly we can get it out of the water in an emergency. And in 4 hours, we got the unit out of water. Obviously, this is one of very positive things. If you have a big flood issue, you will fill a fish ladder full of mud and other debris, and it will take months to clean it to be operational, whereas we can be operational in 1 day. We only did 3 weeks of running, and we got a very good result. We got 16 different species. It is very good to understand that all fish can use our fishway because the entry is underwater and even the weakest swimmers can use it. So we had 291 shad, which was the species we were looking after. We had some very big catfish, which you will soon see in a video. The catfish were actually a reason we didn't have that much shad at all, because they were, you could see them in underwater cameras, they were all waiting just in front of the fish heart and feeding themselves. And we even have pictures where they are feeding themselves inside the fish heart. And also we compared the figures from our AI into the real amount of fish. And in all other species, we were very close. But with herring, we had lost about 200 herring compared to what was in the fish container. And then we, together with the scientists, realized that the catfish had eaten all of those herring. It's good to also see that we have very small fish in there, threadfin shad, only 8.5 millimeter, and then the largest catfish was nearly 4 feet long. Here is a video. Oh, isn't? Sorry. Now I can't unfortunately show the video. I will send you one that it has somehow corrupted. Sometimes it happens, but I will send a link together with Nick, so then the video will be there. What I want to point out about Sante Dam is that as a result of our very good test, they have now ordered a unit from us. It's not been officially published, and they have also been given a 10-year permission from both NOAA and Fish and Wildlife. And this is obviously a very big step in our business in the United States. I also want to do this. I wanted to show you what a fishway could look and why it would be so good in your site. Maybe it will take time before you will get a full funding to build a fishway. And when you start to build a fishway, it normally takes years with all the permits and everything. If you would now today order us this system, 4 months from that, we would be operational and moving fish already over the dam. What I have built here is our unit and 2 options. Option 1 would be to drive the fish, all the fish, into a fish container where they could be then truck and transported over the 4 dams. Other option is this pipeline. You have the siphon pipeline here, the black one, and then you have the pink line going over 2 dams. We could collect the fish and drive them directly over 2 dams. I just wanted to show quickly what we think in a looking. I haven't been on the site, but looking on a Google Earth and discussing with Steve, who has been in the site. This is definitely the way we want it to be on left side, same side of the turbines and same side and then the tail race. Very quickly, I can show you because it's so different. We did our project in Australia. In Australia, it's not a question of getting fish really over the dams because authorities want to, or there's regulative issues. It is to save the fish from dying. The Australians just don't have enough water anymore, and the rivers are overheating. All the oxygen is dying from the rivers, and they have had some terrible mass fish kills. Last one, 2023, very close to this area. Over 10 million fish died. So the government decided to have a program. There was an open tender which we won. We won it in mid-November, and we started building on 15th of January. And fishway was operational 15th of February. So only 3 months from winning the tender, we did a route over a road. This is actually the dam, and on the top of the dam there's a road. This middle picture is the intake side and the exit for the fish. We use there a genset because it's in a deserted area. There's no hydro, just a dam. And there is just a picture showing on the right bottom corner how our AI is cropping the fish. We are very closely operating there with the local indigenous people. They wanted to paint our pipelines for good wish for the fish. They are very active there, both the elders and young people, and also we have designed together with them and New South Wales these covers for our fences, which is also made by the local artists. And finally, I've collected here a little bit what we have so far reached. The picture you are seeing is a situation where we have satellite heart on the left, facing downstream, getting fish from there. The pipelines are underwater, they are collecting these 2 units. And then we have fish heart unit facing upstream, getting all the fish that are working anti-clockwise in the eddy area. Already 2019, we did a lot of tests for fish survival. We got approved by the Finnish authorities. We have since then been approved in other countries, obviously. And now last we got the 10-year contract in East Coast, which is very exciting for us. We are due to test in multiple countries, including Australia, France, and Germany. And then here is just some of the fish that I have used. So far, 55 different fish species have used our fishways. And now I'm happy to answer questions.
Thanks so much, Mika. We have a few questions that folks have put in the chat if we want to go there first.
Okay, yeah, let's go there.
So the first one, when you said that,
Is the first one from Jenny?
Yep.
Okay. Asking this question for later when you finish. When you said the system can identify remove invasive species, did you mean remove them from the total species count or that system removes the... Okay. The system can move the invasive species from the aquatic ecosystem, so they can be driven to the shore to be killed. Obviously, when you have a situation that you have both invasives and other fish, you will drive them all into the fish container, and then from there, either automatically or manually, you will do a second separation, and you will let the fish allowed to use the fishway go back to the downstream, and then they will have to have a second go. How do these units perform in a flood stage? I would say normally very well due to the fact that it is a floating system. So a normal flood is not going to stop us all. We have had now 4 floods already in Australia where the water has risen up to, I would say, over 10 feet in a day, and the system just goes up and down. I know a lot of people talk also about what about debris with the flood. Normally our guiding nets and systems are protecting the system very well. We can of course put booms around to protect them as well. When you say driving, are you putting them in a tank, in a truck, and driving them on roads up to the suitable? Yes, we speak a lot about driving the fish over the dam. Obviously, you can also say they are using the fishway. But then when we have move them from the fish weigh to the collection container, then the fish would be then ready for truck and transport wherever the customer wants us to take them. Okay, Nick already answered that. Good. And mine was already answered. Okay. All right.
So we also have several other questions that we'd come up with at a previous meeting. If you guys have anything that you want to say, yeah, Jenny, feel free, and then we can go through some of these.
Yeah, thanks so much. That was a great talk and overview. Thank you. I just had a question about how fish get back down. Maybe that's a silly question if they're assumed to just sort of spill over the spillway, but can fish get back down through Fish Heart as well for the juveniles returning to the ocean?
We have another system, partly other system. We have designed our own guiding fence, which it's a prototype still. We have patented. We are testing it for the second year now. So we see it in a way that it's a combination, at least in Scandinavia. You can use during the flood time, you can use the floodgates, you can build the gate for especially the juveniles, or you can build a guiding fence to guide the fish, and then either we will have a unit which will then transport the fish down using same or different pipeline, or we could have just a funnel, what we have discussed a lot, and there is actually one funnel in testing in Finland already, a very big funnel where the speed of the water suddenly changes so much that fish can't really avoid of getting inside to the pipeline.
Thank you.
So one of the questions also was about operation and maintenance, and you touched on that, saying that you take the units back once a year and maintain them as needed. But can you clarify, how that would potentially happen, and if there was, you mentioned in Australia there was this really large storm and you had to take it out. Like, where are your operations here? How would that work locally?
Well,
I'm gonna
we
go
already have
get another cup
one.
and get some stuff out of the car, but I'll be back.
Oh,
So I'll just really go out the back door and leave that ajar, or
go ahead. Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, we obviously have one system operational already with First Light, and we are talking now with them how we are going to arrange the warehousing on winter conditions for that and the service. So we will have either in Massachusetts, Connecticut, or somewhere in the East Coast area, we will have, I would say in 1 year's time, we will have our own premises where we are keeping them from the winter, we are servicing them during the winter, and then we are returning them back. And with all the customers, obviously, it's some customers might have a crane, some customers have a lot of personnel. So we're always very flexible. We do, every customer gets their own contract depending on what is their needs. But if a customer wants, we can provide a turnkey operation where we come every spring, bring a crane, bring a personnel, bring a boat, take the system, lift it to the water, assemble it. We run them remotely. First year, we always have people on site because we are learning of the site, maybe even second year. After that, we are, like the system now in Australia, we are running it remotely from Finland. And the systems are really reliable. They run 98% of the time. Only the 2% is we are washing the acrylic pipelines, either by our own personnel or by our subcontractors. Once a week, in average, they need to be washed so that we have a very clear vision for our cameras.
Okay, thank you. So you said that everything is specific to the client, of you can do everything yourself, or you can sort of teach and allow the local client to do some of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we have, for example, with Sante Cooper, they have a lot of personnel, they have a crane, so we will supervise them. And I believe after 1 or 2 years, they are doing the assembly. Basically, they are doing everything except we are running and monitoring the systems, and then we're doing the winter service. We do the winter service ourselves because it is the only way we can then guarantee an ongoing guarantee for the unit when we service it ourselves.
Thanks. Can you speak to the noise level of these units?
There is no noise really. The system itself is very noiseless. The only thing what you can hear is the surface flow water flow. Then the pump, but that's way under 100 decibels. So it's not allowed at all. So even in city areas, which we have one of the sites, it's no complaint from the local people.
Thanks. How does it function in various depths? Is there like a minimum or maximum? I guess not a maximum if it floats.
It floats, yeah. There's no maximum. Hardly there's no minimum at all. I would say that, let's say if you have at least 3 feet water, the entry is on the bottom of the system, as you saw in the picture, and it could basically, if you don't have a lot of water, it doesn't need to float. We can put it to the bottom. It can be in the bottom, and then the other way is that if you have a lot of water and you would have fish that you want to get all the way from the bottom, like I said before, then we can have a unit which is all the way in the bottom. Normally, our catcher, which is in front of our fish heart unit, normally it's about 15 feet wide and 12 feet deep. So it covers a very good area.
Can you speak to the size of the pipes and how that allows different species to pass? There was a question about how it passes shad versus herring and alewife. I know on your chart there, it seemed to have passed all of those species. But just clarify.
Yes, and I would say the only fish that we haven't so far passed is a very big sturgeon. We are confident by scaling up. I think that is the only fish species we would need to scale the system up a bit. The pipe where the fish are moving is 1 feet diameter. I know you wonder that, okay, that's a little bit small, but I can guarantee even big salmonoids up to 35, 40 pounds have used our system with no problem. It is actually better when the pipe is not too big, because the water pressure around the fish, because it's full of water, there's no air, it is protecting the fish. And all the curves that we make with the pipeline, they have a very long radius. So the radius is a minimum of 5 feet, no sharp corners, which could damage the fish.
Yeah, and I'll just add at the Santee site, the system, the pipe from the water up to the tank wasn't necessarily to, say US Fish and Wildlife Service criteria, but it was designed for that testing. And there were 90-degree bends, and it was, Mika said, 12 inches in diameter. And there was no impact of the shad that we could detect going through any part of the system. And amazingly, these 4-foot long catfish even went through that 12-inch diameter pipe without any issues.
Do you have any passage efficiency numbers? So I know the table you showed had the total count that were collected for each species, but do you have the number that entered the system by each species compared to how many successfully passed?
Well, only very preliminary, because that was the very short test in Sante Dam, only for 3 weeks, first time with shad. So the numbers of the percentage of the American shad was not very high at all. Then in Finland, where we have worked 8 years now with salmonoids, we are up to 70% efficiency. This is something that the Finnish agencies demand. obviously we have told our customers if we want higher, it's possible. The system is developing, and also by adding one more entry unit, we can still go up with the efficiency. So it is a learning curve with shad and herring. I would say that our internal aim is that in 5 years' time, we will be with the efficiency figures that the agencies demand with shad and herring in the East Coast.
Yeah, and I'll add again on the Santee testing. We did do acoustic tagging and pit tagging, and we did find that there was fairly significant fallback from the handling and potentially from the high water event. So I think it was on the order of 50 to 60% of the tagged fish basically left the area and never came back. So that was certainly an artifact of the testing. This year for tunnel, they will be doing acoustic tagging as well. And for those of you familiar with the Shetucket and Quinnebog, I believe they'll be capturing the shad at Greenville, which is the first dam on the system, and then release there. And then they can either go to the Shetucket or up the Quinnebog where a tunnel is. But there is some evidence from previous studies they can move back and forth. So the hope is that, we will get a fair number of the tagged fish and have a better idea of their behavior at that dam and potentially, some estimates of efficiency.
There's some questions in the chat. I'll reply those to now. What are the estimated cost ranges to 1, mobilize and set up the system, 2, remove it seasonally, 3, operate the system, 4, okay. Our standard price when we are doing most of the things, I would say it's everything bar crane and few local people to help us, is our yearly cost is $150,000. And then it goes down from that depending what the customer, how much of the work customer is able to do itself. About trucking, about how many fish can one truck transport? Steve, you would know this. I'm not familiar, or I'm only familiar on trucking salmonoids.
Yeah, I would say I'm not, we have a number of the folks in states around New England have done a lot of trucking, and they're actually doing it now on the Quinnebog for one of Elevate's projects, Wireline. And I know that Verdantis designed a shad transport trailer using standard requirements that have been applied to other folks that have transferred. So I don't know offhand exactly how many fish they put in for transfer. I don't know, Jessica, if you may know what they've been doing at Wireline after the first season, but it's probably on the order of 50 to 100 at a time, I would think.
Yeah, I'm looking up the number right now because I don't know off the top of my head, and we didn't have that many fish last year where we were maxed out. So I can send that as soon as I find that.
Okay. Next question is, do you have a rough estimate on the detail you showed at Main Street and Slater Mill? A rough estimate would be the unit. We don't necessarily sell it. Normally what we do is we lease it to begin with, so that we want the customer to be pleased. If the customer would be very disappointed to us after 1 year, we can take the system back and say thank you. It hasn't happened so far, but it's our way to prove to the customer that we believe in ourselves. So a normal contract is a 3-year lease to buy, where you first leasing it year 1, year 2, and then when you pay year 3, then you own it. And the lease price now with the current dollar value against euro, including 3 years of assembly cost, running cost, everything. So everything included except the pipeline is $3.4 million. Then I would estimate the pipeline to be around max 600,000. So $400 million would be the maximum you would need for that site. Have there been any issues with other type of aquatic organism getting caught in the system like turtles or salamanders? No, we haven't had any. We have had actually few birds going into the system in Australia, but the system doesn't run when it doesn't recognize them as a fish. If it because it's AI based, so if there's a turtle or salamander, it would just wait open until they go out of the system.
Okay, I think I have a couple more questions here. I'm not sure that you can answer these specifically, but I don't, maybe your Connecticut example, there were questions about permitting for a temporary installation. If it's considered like a research project, it's not intended to be permanent. What would permitting look like potentially?
It needs the permit of the water area owner, obviously, whoever owns the water. It doesn't need any kind of building right because it is not a permanent structure. It would need the permission of who owns the land on the side of the river, because obviously we are building the pipeline. Or if in the first year we would not have a pipeline, we would just drive the fish into the fish container. Then as far as we know, the only permit what is needed is from the regulatory authorities,
I don't know if
i.e.
you
the agencies.
add anything on what your thoughts are.
Yeah.
Okay.
The pipes that you shown going up kind of river right going north. Do those have to be fixed to a surface or are those kind of just hanging?
Again, it's site specific. In Australia, we have them, they are going in the ground, and then in some places they are on top of big concrete blocks. In Finland, we have them both going in the ground. We have them going in a side of a very big building, because in one side we have them going 10 meters straight up and then making a curve, going to the other side of the river, then going down and 300 meters underground. So we can always design them also to go underground so that they are not seen at all if it's possibility to dig. By the look of it, that it looked like that we could hang them maybe on the side of that riverbed if it is made from concrete, or then just on a top. It's a very light.
Yeah, there is constructed river wall there. The only complexity that I throw into it is that they're part of the National Park Service. So putting things into a historic wall would be a big headache. So if there's ways to fix it either to the bedrock in that area or something of that sort, that would probably be easier.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we could find the right way. We have a very good designer for the pipelines. He's our own person nowadays, and he has designed all our pipelines, and he's done that for 12 years. So we have a lot of expertise, and of course it's so site specific, but I'm sure we could find the solution. Even one solution would be to just floatate the pipe all the way. We could just have it flotating on the side all the way up and down. That's also one possibility.
Thanks. Do you want to open that up in the chat so we can see those numbers? Oh, it doesn't let you just like click on them.
Yeah, I might have to tell.
We're just figuring out how to look at those numbers that just put in the chat.
Yeah, sorry, it's small. It's dependent on
I can do
the
it.
water temperature and the species, so it wasn't as easy as just, yeah, sending a answer.
Tank capacity and oxygen setting for alewife. Okay.
Number of fish per truckload, 1,400
Yep.
herring.
So depending on water temperature between 500 and 1,500, and then I'm gonna stop sharing and swap to that other one that you shared. And for herring and shad, okay, so shad is the lowest between 70 and 80, and herring is 500. Okay, perfect. Thank you. John.
So I was just wondering if the best area for the intake is over by the hydro plant. Can the piping go across the river from Slater Mill and go up along that wall? Because that's kind of where the existing design's going to go underground, and I think it'd be more acceptable to the Park Service if it stayed on the other side of the river rather than going up on the Slater Mill side.
Yeah, we can the pipes, we floatate the pipes, so obviously it is not a problem. It's just that the other side, when we're gone over the water, we just need to have a rigid place where we can then attach firmly a pipeline so that it holds. But we can floatate the pipes very high. We can even just have a floatate underneath it. So that won't be a problem if that is what is wanted.
Yeah. The last question that we had, I think we don't know the answer to so if we were to temporarily pass fish over these lowest two dams, would that sort of kick the domino of Fish and Wildlife requiring fish passage at those upper dams? I think that's a Fish and Wildlife question, probably.
Yeah,
Does
I'm just
anyone?
curious, is there any change in status of Elizabeth Webbing at this point? I know somebody was seeking a FERC license for it, but I haven't seen any updates recently.
Yeah, so that dam is owned by DEM, the state of Rhode Island, and it was purchased specifically with the intention of lowering it in order to pass fish. Fuss and O'Neill is working on a contract right now through the Nature Conservancy and DEM to look at various designs of how to pass fish over that, whether we lower it 2 feet, 3 feet, 10 feet, remove the whole thing. And so those scenarios are still being explored, and we need to do a bit more surveying. There is a pending application in FERC. It does exist. It is something that might be a problem, but because they don't have the landowner permission, they don't have any easement rights, it would be a long legal battle for them to do that. And they don't have the support of the other hydro owners. They don't have the owner support. There also was a letter from the Narragansett Bay Commission, who runs the sewer infrastructure, and they submitted a letter to FERC saying that that FERC project may compromise a multi-billion-dollar project that they are doing to address combined sewer overflow, that they have a consent decree from EPA to do. So I think it's unlikely that that project would happen. So what we're hoping for is that once we compare all of those alternatives from Fuss and O'Neill, when we have more information about the on-site conditions and the height of the dam versus the height of the bedrock, we'll be able to choose a preferred alternative and pursue that.
And are these first two dams, do they have a first FERC license obligation or something else? And what is the timeline in here?
Yeah, super complex. I'll try and give you the short version, which is that Main Street Dam received an exemption. So they don't have to renew their license. There's some documentation that they almost did the fish passage project. Everyone thought it was going forward back in like 2006, 9, 3, something, early 2000s. And DEM wrote this letter to Main Street saying you don't have to pay for anything, give us $100,000, we'll contribute that to the project. We already have funding through this other source. You're all set, you're off the hook. That funding ended up not happening. The fish fastest project didn't occur. So in a lot of people's minds, okay, we said that they were exempt. They don't have to do anything, moving on. Now we're seeking federal funds to construct this fish passage. Technically, US Fish and Wildlife didn't give up their right to say, we have anadromous fish plan, and therefore you are required to do this, but no one's asked Relevate or the Main Street Hydro Dam owner in the past to do that. So we currently have 3 pending applications to NOAA requesting funding for construction of that fishway that would go over both Main Street and Slater because they're so close together. And then the third dam DEM owns has the intention of lowering and installing fish passage in some way. And then once that is complete, the 4th dam is Valley Falls Dam, which is another hydro dam. Their FERC license requires them to pass fish once fish are there. And then above that dam, we have the spawning grounds where we hope that we get fish.
Okay.
So not a clear-cut answer, but hopefully that helps.
No, but very interesting. Well, I think obviously you have a lot to think about, and I think we would have a good chance with both NOAA and Fish and Wildlife to get a similar 10-year contract with Fish Heart, which would obviously give you a lot of time with the third one. Because now that it's been given, it's not announced yet, but I know that everything is in order. It's just waiting now to come onto the FERC pages. This 10-year contract allowing us and Santa Cooper to develop the system.
Is that approved for shad, alewife, and herring? All?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's part of, I think, a settlement agreement between Santee Cooper and the state and federal agencies there. I think it's kind of a complicated system. There are 3 hydros. The Corps of Engineers owned one of them, and they own the dams. And then there's going to be a transfer of the Santee Dam to, I guess as part of their licensing of that and one of these other projects that they're going to take over from the Corps. They have this agreement with the agencies on fish passage, both upstream and downstream, and a timeline for everything. And there is passage at the other 2 projects in the system, but Santee Dam is the one that didn't have it. And so the agencies have agreed, as Mika said, to allow them to put the Fish Heart in for 10 years. And I'm assuming it'll be assessed during that period, and after 10 years, another decision will be made as to whether to keep operating it.
Would that necessarily transfer to New England? I don't know if anyone knows that answer is it Fish and Wildlife says for the US this is good, or for that specific region in South Carolina, and they might make a different decision in New England region?
They could make a different decision. I think it's more site specific than region. Buren Lake, I don't know who's been involved with Fish and Wildlife Service. Buren Lake, who just recently left NOAA, is the one that had been serving as kind of the fish passage engineer on the Santee projects, and gave his blessing. I think they would evaluate it in a similar way as far as, okay, we've had some success here, in South Carolina, the same species, obviously a different site. You have other, logistics or design issues you need to, consider. But I don't see why, at this point, they wouldn't see it as a technology that certainly could be tried. And as Mika said, it's usually a 2 to 3 year process just to optimize the system. And that's what's happening at Tunnel. The agencies did agree to have the system tested by First Light at Tunnel. So that included Connecticut, the Fish and Wildlife, and NOAA. And it's actually a surrogate site because Tunnel is grandfathered in as far as not having a FERC license. And the site where it's being considered for on the Housatonic at this point doesn't have any fish in the river for it to be evaluated. So they agreed to do the testing at Tunnel. And again, this was all part of consultation with the agencies and with their approval.
Okay, but it's considered more of like a research project, a pilot than, yes, go ahead, this technology is approved.
Well, I would say Tunnel is at this point, but Santee Cooper certainly, I think the fact that they've given them 10 years to operate the fish heart, everybody is pretty happy with the results that they saw during the 1 year testing and are fairly confident that it'll achieve the goals at the project.
Yeah, I would add that obviously we have to in 10 years time we have to match the goals, and we do understand that. If we wouldn't be efficient enough, of course the agencies have in every situation right to say that sorry, it's not good enough, because it's obviously always the license holders responsibility to design and build a system that in long term will match the goals. But I would
yeah, sorry, Mika. And for both the Housatonic project and Santee, I mean, the alternative they're looking at would be likely a fish lift. And, you're talking $15 to $30 million for those projects, and no guarantee they'll, how effective they'll be as well. And certainly I know getting fish over Main Street and Slater Mill isn't going to be cheap either with a fish ladder of that size. So, that always comes into play as far as, funding availability.
Yeah. I think something that our group discussed is that folks feel more comfortable, it seems, with the proposed vertical slot fishway. But as you said, it's $19.5 million. And I think there's a little bit of a question of if we see this as a temporary measure and our sort of big picture goal is still to do a vertical slot fishway, does it make sense to invest in this if it's temporary? And I guess how much would you invest? So you mentioned it's like $150,000 per year to manage, but a 3 year lease to own would be $3 to $4 million. Can you explain that a little bit more? Of is it like the deployment cost versus the operational cost?
No, the cost of the unit is well, I calculated. Let me just.
And maybe everyone else understood that.
Yeah, it's $3.4 million US. So we take the 450 away. So let's speak about 3 million. The price of the unit and the system without the pipeline, the cost to buy it, if any customer comes and asks, it's $3 million US. If you are not comfortable buying it outright, you can lease it, and you would pay a bit over 1 million on the first year, and bit under 1 million on the second year and the third year. This is our normal way of lease buy. But of course, we could also look for a 5 year contract, 5 year lease to buy contract. Everything is we quite flexible in. We want to help our customers on reaching the goals, and of course, we also want to have more units in the United States, because the more units we have operational, the more we learn, and it also helps us, and it gives us a reputation. But plus minus 1 million a year for 3 years, and then on top of that, the 150,000 for the running cost. And then if you want the fish over the 2 dams, then it's add-on is the pipeline.
Okay, I think I understood. Thank you. Any other questions that folks have or comments? Sean, I'm so surprised. I feel like you would be the one with all the technical questions. Okay. Well, we really appreciate you guys coming and managing the.
Can I just
Yeah.
Can I just add one other thing?
Sure.
So we are doing the testing at Tunnel, and I'd ask you to communicate with Nick and Meek on this, but there is an opportunity to visit the site and see the system in operation, and learn more about the technology. And again, Mika, you can talk more about what the plans are for visitors.
Yeah, the open days, and of course, if they don't fit, it's always easily available, possible to arrange different dates. But the open days are 11th and 12th of May, where we warmly welcome you to come and check the system out.
Where is that exactly? Do you have like a town name?
So it's the Tunnel Dam on the first dam on the Quinnebog, and it's in Norwich, Connecticut. So
Oh,
it's kind of on the other side of the river from Norwich.
I grew up 10 minutes from there. Okay, so I will definitely go check it out when I visit my family. That's so interesting. I didn't realize that. Okay, so May 11th and 12th are open visitor days for Quinnebog, but could plan another day too. Well, if you're in the area, you should come to, I don't know if you're going to be there for that, but that weekend, May 16th, is our annual fish passage or fish migration parade that we host. And this year, instead of like a physical walking parade, we're parading boats, and we'll be kayaking, and folks will be on a 40-person riverboat as well, going to explore the marsh where we're hoping to get these migratory fish. And we'll have speakers and fun public art projects. So we would love for you to come.
I will be already in Iceland in a new project, but I would really like to come and see your site on. I'm flying Friday the 8th. I'm flying from West Coast. Me and Steve, we are there in a Fish Passage conference. Maybe that Friday or Monday the 11th, maybe there would be time. How many hours drive is this place from Tunnel?
Like an hour.
Okay, well then I would definitely want to come and have a look at it. It would be very interesting to see the place on real life, to make a little bit more analyze.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
Mika, all the dams are within about 10 miles of each other or so you could see pretty much all 4 dams if you wanted to.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're very, very close.
Okay. Great. So
I'm
let's.
local. I'll be the site manager at Tunnel. So if you do attend the visitation day, I'll be the one there, kind of showing you around. And I'm definitely interested in the parade if I have time. So, yeah, I would definitely like to come if it fits my schedule.
I'll give you the link to it. You can learn more. No pressure. We're also asking for sponsors right now. We're trying to finalize those in the next week and a half. So if you're interested in a sponsorship, getting your logo out there, let us know.
Might have just been drafted an email, but I will.
Kevin will follow up. But yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time. This was really interesting. I think we learned a lot. We took a lot of notes here. If folks have other questions either that weren't able to attend today, they have this recording to reference as well as our notes. We can send those on to you, but I think the next step would really be if we can organize a site visit at the Quinnebog, that'd be awesome. Maybe it's just a small group of us.
Yeah. So Nick will be in contact with you. We can also write you an offer so you have the things in paper to have a look.
Sure.
Just preliminary, it's good to have them, and then I'm looking forward to meeting you, maybe all or at least some of you in the tunnel, and I will then agree with Nick also if he can agree for my visit on maybe on the 11th, first thing in the morning or something like that.
Great. That sounds perfect. Yeah, I'm free that day. Okay, thanks so much, everybody.
Right.
Really appreciate you coming.
Thank you very much.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. What do you think, Nels?
Sorry, I was on mute. I was very interested and glad that this opportunity was here. So thank you for coordinating with them, because we had evaluated this obviously as one of the alternatives, and we had estimated costs at that time, and it's good to see that the biggest question from the agencies was, passage of shad. And so to see that they are, addressing that as an issue, that was a data point that didn't exist when we did our assessment. They had only deployed it on West Coast salmon fisheries. So, and also to get the cost, that was like a big thing for me, is how feasible is this, and the trucking logistically, if we have a certain population goal that we're trying to pass over 4 dams, is it a long-term feasible endeavor? And I think that's where the practicality of the trucking became, really cognizant. It's not really a green solution. And having trucks go through the community is probably not desired either, but it's really good to see them have this thing. I'd be interested to see it at that site.
I was confused about that. Are they always trucking? I thought he said they were pumping in a pipe.
At some dams, they do pump it over the dam because the spawning areas are accessible upstream of the dam. So here, if you pass it over Slater Mill for that 600,000, that gets you up to Elizabeth Webbing, but no further until passages are employed there. And he was saying that if you wanted to get it up to above Valley Falls, well, then you're trucking it, 2 miles or whatever it is up the road. And then you get to the spawning grounds, at least up until the next dams. But I think that was what he was suggesting.
That's what it sounded like. I think another fear for some folks is if we begin using a process that employs truck and move, what is it?
Yeah, DEM is not, I should say Fish and Wildlife. They're not too keen on
Right.
trucking
Yeah.
herring or eels, either one, so just due to our limited resources.
So then it becomes a question of do you do a temporary measure that uses trap and truck, or will people sort of say, no, I want to do this forever? And that's, I think the group has said, I don't want that. It sounds like Fish and Wildlife doesn't want that.
Unfortunately.
What is it?
There's mortality with tracking, obviously, with any of these, mortality that occurs in stress of the trucking. So that's another factor that we, weighed.
Yeah. Right. And I know when people love trap and truck, they say, well, it's better than not moving fish at all. But it's a balance.
I think one of my biggest worries would be because this discussion really started not as a Main Street Slater Mill idea.
Right.
But the feasibility of it makes it more realistic. But if this was done at Main Street or Slater Mill, does that then make grant opportunities for the permanent solution that we're going after right now less feasible?
I don't think so. I wouldn't think so. I think it would almost show that we're really dedicated and we're trying to make this happen. And it would be sort of leveraging the data points that we learned from this project to try and come up with a more permanent solution. That's just my thought. I don't know if that's true.
I think it depends on the reviewers for grant funding, right?
Mm-hmm. But I mean, getting $1 million for a year, that's much easier, right? We already have how many million? We got like what, $3 million for Elizabeth Webbing so far from that, or that we're waiting on from that CES, congressionally direct spending. So, you know, it's much more feasible to say, oh, we could be moving fish to Valley Falls Marsh in 6 months.
Yeah, just to add one thing that I was thinking about when I was listening to this was, if it was indeed, a temporary option, the benefit is that it would probably help to figure out too where the fish are actually moving up, right? So where would be the best location to actually have an entrance? We all know a telemetry study was done, and we roughly know where they're going. But I mean, that would be, I think, a benefit is having a system like this in there. It seems like they could probably pinpoint, where or confirm the best location is to have the entrance for a permanent system. So that was just the one thing that jumped out. Because I mean, like Nils said, I mean, I think we met with Steve actually, Nils, what, like 6 years ago when we were actually considering this sort of system. I think that the negative at the time 6 years ago was that there really wasn't much data testing on efficiency for the sort of fish that we're dealing with, herring and shad. But since then it seems like more testing has been done. There's a little bit more information on the actual effectiveness or efficiency now of these systems. I mean, yeah, it's pretty, I feel like it's pretty attractive for this environment, right? I mean, we're talking about a pretty urbanized river, especially down here near Main Street, so to put a floating system like this downstream of Main Street, I don't know, it seemed attractive, but and I agree. I think somebody else brought the question of, well, we probably wouldn't want to run pipes along the Slater Mill side of the river, but certainly, to run them on the river left would probably be more ideal. But I don't know. Those are just kind of my thoughts. If even a temporary system was considered like this, it might be beneficial in terms of finding out like where the fish are really moving, where the best spot to actually have an entrance would be.
Yeah, thanks, Sean. John?
I have a question about DEM, having that unit in the Seekonk River where there's boating at night. How are they going to react to a boat hitting the unit? You never like, as it is navigable, and they do have the pier across from there that boats dock up to, and is that going to be a problem having that in a navigable part of the Seekonk River?
I mean, it's pretty close to the dam. I don't know how many boats are going that high up.
Yeah,
I wouldn't imagine it would be a challenge, but I'm sure it would be a
Well,
question.
There are some stupid people out there that will do it.
Yeah, true.
Like they'll have to have lights around it at night or something, some kind of lit,
Yeah,
like
we can ask that too. Nils, I know you have to go in a minute. Is there anything else that you wanted to add before you go, or?
No, I just saw the other agenda items, and I can just, report out that, DEM did finish its review of the updated report. We provided a draft report back in, I think it was December or early January. Excuse me. And Matt let me know that the revisions are okay on DM's end. So I'll be forwarding a link to download that, and that includes the updated assessment matrix and the assessment of the sound curtain that was revised a little bit, and then relative to the full dam removal or any of the lowering alternatives. and then kind of an outline of next steps for the assessment of the full dam removal, including acquisition of survey data. I know that Sean was out there in the last couple of weeks to try to, recon some spillway elevations. He got some data that corresponds, and we've been looking at your photo, Stephanie, at the downstream level, looking up at the dam to try to ferret out what we can. We're going to have a kickoff meeting here very soon to start that effort, update the model, and then start to evaluate the full dam removal. And actually, Scott just did send the contract approval for that work, for that amendment. So we're going to schedule that kickoff here internally in the next few days. And then I think we have a schedule of about 3 to 4 months to have some modeling results. Again, our goal is to go out during low water conditions and get actual bedrock elevations when we can scramble out onto the bedrock. But absent that, we're just kind of inferring elevations based upon all the data that we can safely get and incorporating that into a model. So the model results that we'll have in a few months will be kind of with an asterisk, pending the potential need for us to go actually out there during the August, September, October timeframe, whenever the water is the lowest, and we can get some confirmatory bedrock elevations that may or may not change the results.
Yeah, like Nils, just to add to that,
Yeah.
I went out there probably, I don't know, maybe a month ago now at this point, because obviously there was a lot of ice in the river, so there was limited flow going over the spillway. So I was kind of able to, at least from the shoreline, from that timber overlook, measure down to where I was hitting roughly bedrock in that location. So that's kind of what I'm going to use. It's basically about 9 feet below the spillway. So that's what I'm going to use right now to kind of get going on at least starting to develop this concept for a full removal.
So we can, report our progress here in the coming meetings, if you'd like, or we can just, return and report out, some of our initial findings when we have them. But ultimately, we'll have a draft updated report here later in the spring, or June timeframe that we can provide. And then just quickly, because I do have to get off, is Main Street and Slater Mill. There's been some email traffic relative to Army Corps and CRMC for the Section 106 reviews and trying to, again, determine if there is a lead federal agency, which there is not at this point. So I've just been staying in touch with Matt and the team at RIDEM relative to the grant funding requests, and any word on that could, obviously affect who that lead federal agency is. So we're kind of in a holding pattern for that, but we're also on that permitting front, trying to set up a meeting with RIDOT so that we can have conversations about, what we're doing and what they need on their end for the access permit. So hopefully that was helpful. Sean, I don't know if you can stay on, but I do have to get off. So
Yeah, actually, Nils, I gotta meet a contractor by 11:15, 11:30 in Pawtucket. So
okay.
I do have to actually run.
All right. All right. Well,
That's okay.
feel
We
free to
appreciate
email
that.
any questions otherwise. And Matt, I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right, everyone.
guys.
See you,
Take care.
everyone.
Sorry, John, too. Okay. Apologies, Jenny and Kate. I know you had your hands up. I just wanted to make sure that he could stick that last piece of information in there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to share my thoughts on the presentation. I really liked the people who were presenting. It's such an engineered solution, and I think what happens when someone's not around to truck, right? Or it seems very temporary, which I know maybe is the whole purpose, but it also, it doesn't address any of the other issues of aquatic connectivity, any kind of carbon transport or, mammal, aquatic mammal transport, or, movement up and downstream. So anyways, I've seen engineered solutions like this before. There's like, salmon blasters and all kinds of crazy stuff. And, Sean had an interesting point about, well, what if we use it to see where the fish are going and that directs where we built the fishway? That could be one use, but in general, it's not a green solution. It's super temporary. And it would be unfortunate if this gave other people, something to point to and say, oh, we're going to do this at our dam just because, or we're going to put in, more hydropower facilities because now we can, have this piping solution. So in general, not a fan, not to be a naysayer, but those were just some of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think setting a precedent can be challenging. But if we have all of these data points to be like, we've tried really hard to get permanent, vertical slot fishway. We've invested a lot of money. We have every intention to continue forward with this. This just came up as a temporary measure to allow us to maybe leverage that and get support. I don't know. So I think it's maybe worth a conversation with Fish and Wildlife too, to see what they think if we still have someone there. But I totally agree. It doesn't provide any of those co-benefits of things like dam removal. Kate.
Did anybody else catch how the carp or the catfish ate every single alewife or shad? Like it was just a smorgasbord. So, well, conceptually, I love the idea of collecting data. I'm worried about, our river herring already are in a catastrophic decline, and I just feel like it's really expensive. I guess it's only $1 million. It's only $1 million, but in my mind, it's $1 million we could be using to get a permanent solution. So I was really, my eyebrows went way up when they kind of purported that, oh, we're getting all this data. Well, it seems to me like you're getting data that it doesn't work for our target species. So that's kind of what I took away from that presentation.
Do we have a lot of catfish?
Oh, yeah. Have you not seen the catfish upstream of, like...
I don't know my fish real well. If I were to look at
I
one
don't
out
know
of the
fish.
water, yes, I could tell you it was a catfish. But in the
I don't
water,
know fish real well either, but I've seen like 5-foot long carp, like invasive carps.
yes, I know we have carp. Do carp eat?
They,
Would carp eat?
I didn't even
No,
think
I wouldn't be a problem.
catfish. I didn't think the catfish would eat. Well, anyway,
It just depends
someone
on
who
the
knows about
species.
fish should figure out what fish we have and whether or not they're just going to gobble up every river herring. So,
But would the fish be eating? I mean, I was a little bit thinking about like great blue heron and egrets sort of congregating around the entrance if it was shallow. Would the catfish be eating those fish anyways? It's just now they're kind of
Well, it
circling in a
happens
nice little
at
pipe.
any fishway that we have, you'll see a congregation of cormorants, ospreys, great blue herons. And that's just, it comes with the territory of having a fishway. It's pretty difficult to avoid the predation there.
but
I
on
think-
our existing fishways, are predators eating every single one of the fish, or do we just not have that data?
So I'm sorry, what was that? Did you say that again?
Yes. So on the fishways that we already have, like for sure, there's great blue heron and osprey and stuff. But it's my understanding that not every single river herring is getting.
Oh, yes. No, you're 100% correct. They take a few, and that's just natural mortality that we have to deal with
Mhm.
fishways.
I mean, I might be wrong, but I thought he said that every single. Go ahead.
He didn't say every single one.
Okay.
He showed that table that there were low shad numbers, and he attributed that to the high numbers of very large catfish in there.
Okay.
And I think the challenge was that once they got in the tunnel, it was easy for them to eat. I actually meant to ask a question too about how fast that can sort of change, because it feels like going in, closing, moving, changing water direction takes some time. So if you have a lot of fish, like, are fish like waiting outside? Is that okay? Maybe that's just how fishways work in general too. And Bruce, I do see your hand. Apologies. You could jump in, Bruce. I asked you to.
There we go. There we go.
Yay.
There we go. Yeah, I was just trying to get my screen to change. I think there's something. If the data is showing a remarkable number, and I was like, it's kind of interesting, Kate, you brought that up because that's exactly what you brought up is what I was thinking as I was listening. Is like, we're looking at sort of a data set that points out a number, right? That it's lower and it's attributing it to something. So we have to definitely consider that. But what really sort of jumped out at me is sort of this idea of a temporary solution. The idea that, okay, so here we are, and I'm going to tell you, I'm coming at it from thinking about this as okay, here are my relatives going upstream. It's like they're getting there, they're coming back, sort of, as the young, and then they come, and then all of a sudden we're not doing it anymore because it's a temporary solution and we haven't gotten the full solution in place yet. So now you're basically bringing them back to say, oh, you can't go there anymore. So it's I can't say that I would support that in any way, shape, or form, or that I would, even go back to the tribe and say we should support this because, oh, look, we're going to get it for a couple of years, or we're going to get it for, the 3 years that we have money, or 2 years we have money, and then come back on it. I think it either has to be a long-term or a short-term solution that's leading us to a long-term, and that has to be very, very definitive. So I think that we really need to understand what temporary means, and when we say temporary. And that what that all that entails. So there's still a lot of legwork, which there's a lot of legwork in everything that comes out of these meetings. It's like, we get to keep it moving, and that's, thankfully, Stephanie, you guys are doing that. But the fact is that it still just sort of looks at it as temporary means, okay, so, oh, here, you can use this for a year. It goes, hate to say it, but it maintains that colonial sort of attitudes of, oh yeah, we're just doing this for a while, and then the next thing you know, it's ending, or it's going on for a while, and then it's, oh, let's extend it a while longer, then to have it end and still not have a permanent solution. So I think that, that's my biggest concern with the whole thing. But I mean, I love the idea of what it does. It's just how, how sustainable it is it beyond sort of what we're looking at in our timeline to get a permanent solution in place.
I think that's a really great point, Bruce. It's kind of, is this a Band-Aid for a gunshot wound because we're waiting for the surgeon, or is this just gonna be the Band-Aid that we put on the gunshot wound until you bleed out?
Right.
So if there's no buy-in from the state on, no, this is we got a solution coming on its way, we're gonna keep working. As long as we don't treat this as a success type thing of, we did it, fish are back. And then we wait 10 years or whatever, because they have the 10-year window that it can work. But as long as the foot doesn't come off the gas pedal in that amount of time on creating a permanent solution, it's good. But if this also just makes it so people say, we did it, we finally got fish back, and end of story, then yeah, it's counterintuitive.
Right, especially because we're going to have these fish that are now imprinted coming back to a place where they can't go any further again.
Yeah.
And we know that they're doing that already. So it's kind of we're adding numbers to that number that exists there.
From a grant writing perspective, I think, to your points, it's really different to say, okay, we have not yet, we're still waiting, but if we were to hear that we got some or all of our NOAA grants, then it would be relatively simple to leverage that story to find additional funding to start getting the fish while we're constructing a permanent solution. And it sounds like this group could potentially make a list of deal breakers. Like, if we don't have money for a permanent solution, this isn't on the table. If, X, Y, and Z, whatever those are.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that wholeheartedly, because that really gets to the heart of the solution, because it has to be a permanent solution, not a temporary solution. So we've got, we're waiting while we're, because we know that sort of the larger project's going to take quite a while to get done. And this gives us the couple to 3 years to really make sure that it's stocked and going, as we're going to basically have something there that is going to be more permanent. So I would agree with that. So I think that that's exactly what the direction needs to be. How do we move forward? What do we move forward on with? And then, how do we leverage, I think.
No, you had such good points.
I just have one more thing to say.
Yeah.
I wonder if it would be of interest to create a statement to provide to NOAA Fisheries saying, should we be approved for this pending trio of applications, we are poised to start moving the fish while the construction is happening.
I also
Would that
wonder,
make us competitive?
I don't know.
I
Oh,
think
sorry.
I think a statement is a great idea if we pursue this because we need to be explicit. People will make assumptions that this is the solution if there isn't like an official statement out there. So like
Yeah.
statement to NOAA, statement to the public, statement to DEM, and just be crystal clear that this is a temporary solution.
Can we also, is it affected at all by the construction itself? Can we do this during actual construction?
They had told me yes,
Okay.
originally.
Would changing where the
Hey, we got Bruce back.
Yay! Would changing where the flow is from the temporary to the permanent locations be detrimental to?
Over time.
Yeah, like if for 3 years all the fish are going to
No.
one spot, it's going to the fish heart, moving that over. No, cool. I like fish. They're smart. Smarter than me.
But I do want to point out one thing to clarify my question that I asked earlier. Because I thought that was a really misleading table that they presented. Because that total count is pretty much irrelevant for each species, if you recall that table I showed. It's really the percent of fish that are able to successfully patch, because they could have had 6,000 shad enter in 200 or 300, which they collected.
Mhm.
So that's the real question mark for me, because that table really showed nothing to me.
Yeah. And he said he didn't have
Right.
efficacy numbers for this.
Yes, and you can't do anything without those passage efficiency numbers. That's really key for any fish way.
The number that he said of like 70%, that was off the top of his
Yeah.
head, is that?
It's that would be low for us. That's what I would consider low. I think good for us would be like 85% above.
Okay.
On our fisheries.
Doesn't it also depend though, it sounded like how much handling the fish had, so if you're keeping them in the tunnel and they're just going over the dam, there'd be a much higher efficiency rate, whereas if you're trucking them, more fish are dying in that way, or if you're like putting them in a holding facility and moving them, more fish are dying that way.
Yeah, I guess it would vary between that. Yeah, I was a little skeptical of the long piping.
Yeah, it was really long piping.
Yeah,
Yeah, how long is
I mean, the vertical soft fish way is very long too, but.
but that's also a lot more room for rest and things like that.
yeah, I have a lot of questions, but I didn't wanna
That's okay.
go over / bombard them, but yeah, it's. Because the herring and shad really there's a lot of limitations on their burst swimming. And when there's no resting area, or if there's high turbulence, say in that, which I would imagine the problem is, that's where it becomes a problem specifically for the shad.
But if they're being pushed through, they're not necessarily resting, but they're also not fighting up.
They're extremely finicky fish, specifically shad when it comes to that. And it doesn't take much for them to just drop back and completely fall back.
Yeah, that would be 700 feet worth of tubing.
Yeah, which is both expensive and just.
So that's why I just think I would need to see a lot more data.
But can't they not fall back? Once they're in the system, that system is moving them. They don't have a choice.
The system's moving against them, isn't it?
No, the water, if I'm understanding this right, the water's coming in at a certain pressure, attracted flow, and once they're in it, it closes. It switches direction and it pushes them with enough force that they're not going to fight against it. So then they're just moving in the flow of water and like, okay, I'm on a lazy river now. And then they have to go through the tubing to get to wherever.
Oh, okay, maybe I misunderstood that part.
But the opening and closing seems like you're really relying on that system to work.
Yeah, to Jenny's point that it's a highly engineered.
Yeah.
Highly, yeah. And also like, okay, if you have 300 fish waiting to go in, but only 15 fit in the tube, are they just like doing that a million times, and is that okay, and will fish hang out and wait to go in?
Right at the elevator door, yeah.
I don't know, maybe they do, because that attractive flow remains there.
I've definitely seen river herring just hanging out for no reason, like at the mouth of a fishway.
Yeah.
And you're like, why aren't you, like, if I'm doing a fish count, it's like, why aren't you crossing the threshold? Like, there's 40 fish right here, and I don't get to count any of them because they're not moving past the magic line. So I think they do that to some extent, but I think your point is still valid, and it just seems, yeah, like to have all of these fish in a pipe. I don't know.
I wonder if, I mean, if these species were on the absolute brink of extinction and, they needed an engineered solution to get them through the next couple of years until something more permanent was discovered, I wonder, but in this case, like, at what cost are we gonna, pipe fish and truck them over a dam to get an extra couple of years? I don't know. Like the fish get so stressed out in these sorts of structures. I'm curious if there is any data on how much they do spawn after. I mean, maybe they just get up there and then they go about their spawning like they would naturally. I'm not sure.
Right, but if we already crossed off trap and truck, why would we do this if it includes trap and truck? Is that kind of what you're saying too?
I didn't follow that.
I was just saying, if trap and truck was considered as an option and everyone said, nope, we're crossing that off, why would we consider this if it includes trapping and trucking? And I think it's the challenge of setting a precedent and letting it go on for a long time without doing a permanent solution. But Bruce, do you want to get back to what you were saying? I'm sorry that we
Oh,
got cut off.
I got muted. I was agreeing about the grant purpose. It's like it's one of those things that if we're looking at short-term solutions, it has to be part of a long-term solution. And the $1 million is a lot easier to raise than the $30 million to do the permanent solution. So when we start to think about that, we really have to put that into perspective and then really get into us identifying what are the negotiables, what are the non-negotiables, what makes sense, what's the perspective we're looking at, how are we, because those also play out to for the grant writing perspective is what we're selling, right? What are we selling? Are we trying to put sort of the environmental impact or the impact of the fish? Are we looking at the fish as things, or are we looking at the fish as relatives? I mean, all of these things play out. And these are much deeper conversations that, as we're sort of, planning strategically, we have to make sure that we're all on the same page with.
Mhm.
Although I think we have most of it down. I think we're pretty much, well, most of us are in agreement. I think that's why we've been able to do this for so long. It's just a matter of really sort of defining the language so that we're all on the same page with the language. I think about, I just think about the holes that potentially could be there, with John or Heisey Brown showing up, sad to say, but those are the things that we got to think about.
So do we all think that it would be worth organizing a field trip down to see the one in the Quinnebog function and maybe ask some of those questions offline?
Yeah, I think gathering some data can't hurt.
And maybe it convinces us as a no too, I don't know. And then we're like, oh, never mind, but.
Matt, who from DEM do we need to invite to that site meeting?
It could just be me, but I'll invite Phil and Pat, yeah.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, I'll invite them.
I think I'd like to see it.
What's the date on that again?
I was sort of confused because he said May 11th and 12th were the visitor days, but then he also said he wanted to come here and see the Blackstone dams on May 11th, which seems like a lot to do in one day.
8th is what he said.
Oh, did I
Friday?
He'll come here on Friday?
That's what I heard.
Oh, okay, that might have been true.
That's kind of what I heard, like the 8th, I guess. I just wanted to look at a calendar because don't forget, everybody, Mother's Day is the 10th for all of you folks who have to make your mother feel special.
Okay. So maybe we set up two different things. One is our group goes there Well, I guess first he would come here on May 8th on Friday, and then on the Monday, we would go there and see their system.
I think it's worth checking out for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I also hope that Jason and John will watch this recording because kind of decision makers in a lot of this conversation. So understanding what their take was on it, I think they're gonna have a lot of similar technical questions the same way that Matt did, where it's like we don't have that answer right away, but they can at least, if they can't be there on May 8th, give us the questions that will lead that discussion of if this is actually feasible for Main Street and Slater.
Okay. Is anything else on Fish Heart? We have a couple of other agenda items to run through in the next couple of minutes.
The only other thing that I was confused on that I didn't know if it would work if it was a temporary solution was that they were saying they had DOE funding for a research grant for it. And so if that like really was the route they were going, it might be worth talking to them to see if they'd want to partner for a research opportunity here, which could be like an interim thing and also wouldn't then jeopardize of what the long-term plan is and kind of go against the other stuff that's going forward with funding. So that was just something that he like very offhandedly said quickly that might be worth. I was trying to see on the DOE website what I could find, but I couldn't find anything. That doesn't mean it's not there. There's a lot of grants and I don't even know what department it would be. So
Yeah,
just something else to consider.
that's a good point too. If they want to pay for it from a research grant, like why not try? Because then we know also if it's their funding, it's temporary. They're not going to do it forever.
Exactly.
Yeah, good point. Anything else? Okay. So the other things we had were, one was reviewing any updates to Pawtucket redevelopment, if we've heard anything about those bids being released. Nope. Oh, right. Any updates on other hydro or dam projects like Manville? I think that one's good. Any updates to funding? Haha, if only.
No.
Yep, nope.
Still pending.
And anything else about events? Yeah, the fish parade's coming up. We're also doing a fish craft night the week before on May 7th. If anyone is interested in joining us at Friends of the Blackstone in Lincoln, I think it starts at like 4:30.
Yeah, we have a really big window that will be there, so you can stop in whenever.
Yep.
But yeah, I think 4:30 is the official start.
So we'll do some fun crafts to bring to the parade. That's all I had.
I was talking to Ian at work, and he's super stoked to do some crafting, and his
Yay.
creative juices are turning. So
I love it. Haley also.
I was gonna say Kaylee, of course.
Yep. I think she's gonna do a river of fish, because that's what they'd always said was you could walk across the backs of the fish. They were so there were so many of them. So we're gonna do like a fake paper wooden. I think we're gonna
I
get
think we're going.
we're going plywood and we're gonna like paint it as a river, and then people will paint in all these different fish, and then it'll be on site that you can like walk across it, and there'll be like a little plaque about explaining what it is. Maybe something else too.
Would that be considered fish abuse?
I'm gonna step on those fish. If there are that many fish, Bruce,
You stepping on them?
yeah,
Step on 'em?
they can deal. There's so many.
What a good problem to have.
Exactly. When we get that problem, then I'll worry about it.
It would be a good problem to have.
Anything else? Okay, great. So I'll make a calendar invitation. I'll get a little bit more on timing and exact locations. And I can send out a calendar invite for May 8th if anyone wants to join them here, and May 11th to get down to Connecticut, and maybe we can figure out a carpooling situation. Very good. All right, our next meeting will be April 16th, and is that the one that's in room 300?
I believe so.
Okay, so next time,
I'll let you know.
yeah, I think that it's next time that we'll be in room 300 instead of 330C. I'm on that thought. But the Zoom will be the same, so. Okay, everybody, thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Take care.